Hello, and welcome to Region Locked. Ace Attorney is a series best known in the West for its Nintendo DS releases. However, the franchise spans many titles over several consoles, so it's unsurprising that some Ace Attorney games never made it to the West. Today, we'll be exploring one of those titles, Dai Gyakuten Saiban Naruhodō Ryūnosuke Naruhodō, which means Great Turnabout Trial, the Adventure of Ryūnosuke Naruhodō. Before we discuss why this 3DS entry never came to the West, let's take a look at the game itself. The title plays in the same style to those that came before it. It has courtroom-style arguments where the player must present evidence and find flaws in witness statements, as well as investigative segments to gather evidence to be used in court. Released in 2015, the game makes use of the same 3D graphics found in Ace Attorney Dual Destinies, but also adds cross-examination with multiple witnesses. This additional feature was previously showcased in Professor Layton vs Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. Unlike previous entries in Ace Attorney, this game takes place towards the end of the 19th century. In Japan, this is known as the Meiji period, or in Britain, the Victorian era. The story follows Ryūnosuke Naruhodō, an ancestor of Phoenix Wright, as he works his way to becoming a fully fledged defense attorney. After being put on trial for the murder of his Japanese university teacher Dr. John Watson, Ryūnosuke manages to prove that the true culprit is an English exchange student. This student is Giselle Brett, who was studying under Watson at the time. With her motive still unclear, Brett is released back to England. After the trial, Ryūnosuke travels to England as a stowaway. He's accompanied by his assistant, Susato Mikotoba, and Ryūnosuke's representative during the trial, Asogi. While in England, Ryūnosuke becomes familiar with the world-renowned detective Sherlock Holmes, and they work to solve several cases together. The game was directed by Shu Takumi, who started work on the game after finishing Professor Layton vs Phoenix Wright. Takumi wanted to try an idea he'd thought of over a decade earlier, where the player has to constantly correct a detective. The investigator would continue to make incorrect deductions, and the player would have to steer them towards the truth. Takumi had also wanted to create a Sherlock Holmes game for some time, and decided to use Holmes from the game's inception. Sherlock was used as a way to introduce new gameplay concepts involving deduction, but he was also used to separate the game from the rest of the core series by forcing a change in time period. Takumi found it difficult to work with the era he had imposed upon himself. He had to create dialogue that wasn't too modern, but also not particularly old-fashioned. The lawyer profession was a new career path in Japan in this period too, and at the same time, Japan was starting to assimilate more Western culture and ideals. Despite featuring a popular Western character, the game was never translated and brought to the West. There are several possible reasons for this, but all we've heard from Capcom's Motohide Ishiro, the game's producer, is as follows. Unfortunately, there's a number of circumstances. We absolutely do want to bring it to the West, but unfortunately, due to these circumstances right now, I'm really sorry. Nowadays on the internet, lots of fans are directly asking us where's Dai Gyakuten Saiban? On live streams, even in the Japanese ones, people from the West will write in and ask where it is. Every time we say, we're sorry. Certain circumstances are getting in the way. The circumstances have yet to be made public, but there are two reasons that seem most likely. The first reason is that the game might feature too much historical racism that would be hard to censor if localized. The second reason is that Capcom may fear legal action from the estate of Conan Doyle. Throughout the game, many characters are portrayed as being casually racist towards the Japanese, as this would have been the case during the game's time period. Characters make racist claims, such as stating that all Japanese people look the same, or that Ryu is a yellow devil, and that he is using oriental black magic. It's possible that Capcom are more wary about the sensibilities of Western gamers picking up the title and thinking that the game's writers, or by extension Capcom itself, have an issue with the Japanese. In Japan, racist comments like these aren't perceived as harshly due to the country being primarily ethnically homogenous. In regards to the Conan Doyle estate, this is where it gets a bit more tricky. Sherlock Holmes was the intellectual property of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the character's original creator. After he passed away, all of the rights to Sherlock Holmes were passed on to his family, family. While the character of Holmes is public domain in many countries, the estate do not believe the character of Sherlock Holmes is public domain in the United States. Law states that any work published in the US before 1923 is public domain, but the estate argued against this. They argued that, due to the fact that while almost all of Sir Doyle's work was published prior to 1923, a set of 10 stories were published after that year. The estate believed that because those 10 books are still under copyright, the entire character of Sherlock Holmes should remain under copyright as well. However, this is not how public domain laws work, and the American District Court and Appeals Court explained how copyright works to the estate in 2013. This explanation didn't stop the estate from attempting to sue several productions that use the Holmes brand, however. It's possible that, due to the track record of the Conan Doyle estate, Capcom is reluctant to include Holmes' likeness in any works published in the United States. And since Holmes is such an integral part of the story and setting, removing him isn't a viable option. Did you also know there was a European-only copy of Ninja Gaiden released on the Master System? If you'd like to check that out, click the annotation on screen. My name is Mark Brown, I talk about game design on my channel, and my latest video is about what makes Nintendo's games unique.